Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Be Healed Web Show, where I am your host, Camille R. Perry, and I'm so excited to have you on tonight, tuning in wherever you might be, whether on Facebook, YouTube, if you're watching on LinkedIn. I'm happy to have you with us on tonight. It has been another day that God has blessed us as we're moving through. This is our second Tuesday, I believe, in the month. No, this is the first Tuesday, actually, the first Tuesday in the month of February. I'm just grateful to even be here with so much that has transpired. So grateful. So, a little administration stuff. So, of course, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're watching on Facebook, make sure you share, comment, all those good things on Facebook, YouTube, as well as LinkedIn or anywhere else that you might be viewing this broadcast. Again, I'm happy to be with you all tonight. So let's just jump right in. Tonight I titled it a series review, but I really want to, and I'm going to share my, hey, brother, all the way from Philly. I'm tempted to say go Eagles, right? But I'm also going to say go Chiefs because I think it's just going to be open. Oh, got a little connection issues. Yes, all the way from Pennsylvania. So yes, we're definitely what do they say? Fly high Eagles? I don't know what they say. Maybe I don't know. But to all those that are, excited for the Super Bowl, it's happening this week and I'm excited. So nevertheless, I'm going to tell why from religion relationship is so important to me. I am going to share that because I do believe that I'm constantly at a place where I'm sharing with others or listening to others, share their story. And people often ask me like, well, why did you choose this? And, why the power of vulnerability? Why this particular series? Why? And I never really tell people just where it's coming from my perspective. So we're going to get into that a little bit on tonight. And I'm not going to give you like the long story. I'm just going to give you the nuggets that matter. Right. But I wanted to get your input. What have you thought, or what has been some of the highlights for you in regards to this series? So the first week we looked at understanding what true discipleship is. We had Pastor Devon, Pastor Kermit on. Amazing topic regarding what is salvation, what are you being saved from? All these, what I would say, heavy hitting questions that sometimes people really don't even know. They don't even, they a lot of times it's emotionalism in a response, but do they really know what's being said? And so the second week we had Maria Jones. She shared on, completely deaf. Without her cochlear device apparatus, if she takes that off, she has no sound, not able to hear or detect sound whatsoever. But even her testimony, when she's talking about experiencing the love of God, being deaf, it hasn't been that bad. What? Man, so many good things. Week 3, we had a little technology issue. I'm not sure what transpired, but I just feel like the devil's a hater. He's a liar from the beginning, but that's okay. We're going to have them back. And they're going to share Dolores Jackson and Sandra Perry. They shared regarding growing in the Word of God, looking at scriptures that really help them grow and move forward. And then last week, we closed it out with the amazing, the incomparable Amanda Ramsey and Brother Ricky Barone, and they shared what it meant for them from religion to relationship. So while I get ready to share my portion, I would love for you all to make in your comments. Good evening, Mama Too. So glad to have you on tonight. I would love for you to get in the comment section and share what from religion to relationship means to you. Maybe you've had like an epiphany, you've had an aha moment, you had a shift or a change since you've been watching this 4-week series. Because again, this is just part 1. We're going to do part 2 later on in the year. But, What has it been for you? We'll just love to get the engagement. So let me just kind of tell you guys a little bit about Camille. Um, I grew up in church. Open Door Church of God in Christ, 522 East Cypress, Monrovia, California, 91016, where Pastor Roosevelt Earl Tuggle Jr. was my pastor. So before I joined a sorority, before I knew anything about, making sure I knew the history, right? I listen. I can quote just like I can quote the founders of my sorority. I can quote the information, the founding information of the church I grew up in. And so I grew up in church, served in so many capacities. I was a youth minister. I was, Sunshine Band, praise and worship with New Beginning. Shout out to all of my New Beginning folks. Would teach and share with the women's retreat, you name it. Okay. I will tell you this. I used to go to the altar every to get saved. I'm sure my former pastor would laugh and tell you, like, I remember one Sunday specifically. I had went the Sunday before, but I had a rough week. Had a rough week at what was that, school, and maybe a part-time job, not sure. I was a teenager, and I was like, "Hey, I'm back. Like, let's try this. Like, tell me what to say again. I need you to come in." Because, and listen, I remember his face so vividly. Pastor Tucker looked at me and was like, "Girl, you up here again? Like, what?" And so I remember just feeling like, yeah, I cussed. Somebody said something stupid to me. I kind of got like, I felt every Sunday I had to go back to the altar and get saved again. Okay. Grew up in church, by the way. Saved parents, read the Bible all the time. Dion remembers New Beginning. Shout out to Dion. And so I always go up to the altar because man. And I remember growing up in church, knowing scripture. Okay. I used to be the Bible Jeopardy, Bible trivia. What was that? Saints Present Your Sword. Bible. What was that, Mom? What was that game that we played? Saints Present Your Swords. Bible drill. There we go. I used to be the Bible drill champion. Couldn't nobody mess with me. I'm very competitive, by the way. Very competitive. So between, like wanting to win and, doing all this, I've always been that person. But I literally growing up, I remember we would be at youth congresses and they would ask the question, how many of y'all know you're saved? And I was like, what do you mean I know that I'm saved? Like, what does that mean? How many of you know? Like, they would ask the question, how many want to go to heaven? Everybody hand goes up, hey, who wants to go to a place that's hot? Let's be honest. Everybody like, hey, make noise, you want to go to heaven. But then it was like, how many know you're going to heaven? How many know that you're saved? I would be so quiet. I'm like, I don't know how to answer that. Because let me tell you something, okay? Y'all gonna laugh at me. I don't even care. Listen, have you ever tried to call your parents? Now, this is before cell phones got real popular. You was trying to call your parents because you knew they was either going to be at work or they was going to be, you knew you had like the desk number. You call your parents and nobody answers. And you call them repeatedly. Was it just me that felt like Jesus that came back and got him and now I was left behind? Like, I had the biggest fear of being left behind. Listen, when I say I had the biggest fear of being left behind, I don't know if y'all ever seen those movies, the Left Behind series, where it talks about the rapture. Oh, don't let Kermit or Sandra not answer the phone. So then I had like this thing. If my parents didn't answer their cell phone, then I was like, okay, I'm gonna call my pastor's wife. Now if she answered, we good. Cause like, okay, if mom and dad, so then maybe they got in a car accident, right? Like, God forbid that. But I was like, but I'm gonna call Sajine. Sajine, shout out to her, happy belated birthday. But I'll call Sajine. If Sajine didn't answer, then I was panicking, right? If I was like, okay, Angie's still here, my sister. Different. I was like, that doesn't count. I need somebody who I felt was connected. I lived like this for years. Okay? Years. Years. Years, 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 years. Did I mention the guilt that I would feel? All right, I don't know how far I want to go in this, so I'm just going to play it by ear. Lord, stop me when I share too much. Because I don't know about you, but if you grew up in church, you were taught what to do and what not to do. Not necessarily showing you how to keep away from those things. It was just like, don't do this or you're going to hell. And I've heard my friends who are Catholic talk about Catholic guilt. I was like, man, I had Catholic guilt, Kojic guilt. I had all kind of guilt, right? Because, my mom used to quote scripture like, you got to keep yourself unspotted before the Lord. And I'm like, I feel like a Dalmatian, so I don't know what's happening here. Like, got little spots on me, Mom. What am I supposed to do with that? So I used to carry around this guilt. So I'm just gonna keep it 100. Guilt and condemnation and self-hatred, self-sabotage, all those horrible things that are tools that the enemy uses to keep us bound. Okay. All right. Now, mind you, grew up in church, quote scriptures, knew all this stuff, right? When it was time for me to be, I just knew it. However, knowing it in your mind and knowing it in your heart are two different things. I have the book knowledge. Yes. In the beginning, Genesis 1:1. John 3:16, for God so loved the world. I could quote it. I knew of it, but I didn't have a relationship. Let's fast forward because I don't want to take you through my whole life. Okay. Let's fast forward to 20. There's a lot of years, a lot of sadness, like I said, a lot of guilt, not loving myself, not seeing myself for who God has called me to be, going through a lot of things. Let's pick up at 2013, because that's the whole portion of why this is relevant. 2013, January, New Year's Day, going into the new year of 2013, I was laying in my apartment in Mission Viejo. I didn't go to watch meeting because, when you get grown, you don't have to go to watch night. You grown now. I don't have to go to church. Like, oh man, I was tripping. A lot going on, but I was miserable. I was depressed. I knew I had surgery pending, or, I actually had to make the decision to secure the surgery date for a myomectomy. For those of you that are familiar with fibroids and the things that a lot of times minority women, especially Black women, are plagued with, I was just devastated. I was in situationships. I was in a real dark place. Now, mind you, grew up in church. We get saved every Sunday, knew the scriptures, knew the Bible, but did not know God. Okay. So, that night going into the new year from 2012 to 2013, I'm laying in my bed and I could hear Crystal Lewis, amazing gospel artist, CCM artist. And I could hear her singing, It Is Well. It's an old hymn. But the part that I keep hearing in my head, her singing, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say it is well. And I'm crying, I'm boohooing. My roommate comes to my door because they can hear me crying. And they were like, you good? You good in there? Ugly crying, right? I'm going through it. And I remember every new year, even growing up in church, especially Y2K. I'm gonna take you back for a second. Y2K, folks was so nervous. They done got all these rashes and stuff because we didn't know if the world was ending. Folks, we had the altar was full, and folks were like, and how do we do this? And then 1201 hit, we still there. Everybody was like, all right, cool. You nervous? Like, I used to get anxiety singing Just Want to Praise You forever, because I'm like, what is forever? What is eternity? What? Panic attacks. Why? Because I knew songs, I knew scripture, I knew church etiquette, I knew church procedures, but I didn't know God. I knew how to pray, but ask me, did I pray? I'm telling you, I was jacked up. So that night, I would say that was like the beginning Like he was getting me out of stuff. God has always been getting me out of stuff. And maybe I'll share this in a different setting, but God, I remember God was dealing with me leading up to these moments in 2013, and God was pulling me out of things, and I didn't even know what to do. But I, looking back at it, I knew it was God the whole time. All right, so 2013, I'm crying out, whatever my lot. Now here's the deal. Myomectomy, that surgery, they're to remove tumors from your uterus, fibroid tumors in and around your uterus. Any surgery you go through, it's a deep one. It's you just don't know. Like you can go to the dentist and not wake up if they put you under. Like I think sometimes we forget that there's no such thing as minor anything. Everything's major. Okay? Because if God doesn't allow us to come out of it, we won't come out. Like, anywho. Keep going, Camille. Don't get hung up. All right, I hear you. So that night I'm crying out, and I kept hearing that song over and over. And I remember telling God, I don't even know what that means, but it is well. So let's fast forward to the next month. So between January and February of 2013, I was going to reach community church. Pastor Tommy D. Stewart was the pastor over there in Lake Forest. And during that time, Pastor Tommy was preaching in the Bible study nights, because I had went through a situation. I left the church because there was all kind of stuff going on at that particular church. And I was like, I ain't never going back to that church ever again. Jesus ain't in LA. I used to say that. Jesus ain't in LA, because that ain't supposed to be happening. I'm only going to go to Bible study because people who really love God go to Bible study. I mean, I'm telling you, I had like a whole, I was in a bad way. I'm telling you, I was in a bad way. But me going to Bible study at Reach Community Church was the best thing for my soul. Didn't even know. I worked with his lovely wife. And next thing I know, I started being at that church. There were so many things that God was doing through me that I wasn't even aware of. Looking back at it, I'm like, God, it's been you the whole time. So during that time, we were going through the book. We were going through the life of Peter. So we were reading in the New Testament about Peter's life. So reading through the Gospels, anytime things happen with Peter. And then we started reading the letters of Peter, 1st and 2nd Peter. Oh yeah, that's right. Carmela Hayes said, yes, you started coming to Reach with me too. So I remember that Bible study, Pastor Tommy asked the question, was like, do you know what you need to get into heaven? Like, what do you need to do to get into heaven? And I'm the youngest person in the room, which traditionally happens. I'm a huge fan of older people. And I remember sitting there, and I was like, and we all were like, you got to do good works, like we're quoting things, and in my mind, I was like, I believe it's like Jesus, like we got to like be saved. And so I was like, we were all like, yeah, be saved. He was like, yeah. He was like, so what is one, I forgot how he phrased it, but it was something regarding what does God want you to do, or what has he required you to do that you must fulfill, on this earth. And he was dealing with purpose. And I mean, everybody was just like, I don't know. He was just like, listen, if you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, and you live for him, meaning that you're growing in your relationship, because he went back to Peter. He was like, Peter, in the beginning, Peter hung out with the Lord all the time. He was in like the inner circle with Jesus. He knew Jesus. He knew he was Mary's baby. He knew he was God's son, because when Jesus asked, who does men say that I am? Peter knew the proper response. You are the Christ, Son of the living God. And Jesus said, hey, flesh and blood hadn't revealed that to you, right? So Pastor Tommy's like breaking it down. He was like, in the beginning, when Peter started hanging around with Jesus, Peter got a chance to know him, got a chance to see his miracles, got a chance to, walk on water. But Peter had a temper. Peter was cussing. Peter ended up denying Christ. And Jesus even told Peter, he was like, hey, man, the devil desires to sift you as wheat. But listen, I'm praying for you that your faith won't fail. And when you're converted, you'll come back and strengthen your brethren. And I remember Pastor Tommy talking about this, and he was just like, the life of Peter had an experience from a casual place and even somewhat of a learning of a friendship with Christ, but he didn't have a relationship just yet. He hung around him, he thought he was cool, but he didn't have a relationship. And I remember Pastor Tommy was talking. Pastor Tommy might not even remember this, but Pastor Tommy was talking, and I started thinking to myself, I've been hanging around church all my life. I mean, hanging around willfully and unwillfully, right? I didn't grow up where church was an option. Oh, you don't have to go, said no parent named Kermit or Sandra to Camille or Angela, okay? Joshua 24:13, if I'm not mistaken, or 24:14, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. That was, my dad bought so many of those things. Like they were all around the house, like everywhere. But anyways, when Pastor Tommy was talking about that, I started realizing I've only been around God, like the peripheral. I didn't have a relationship. And I remember he was like, if you've accepted Jesus Christ in your heart, you do know that he expects you not to be perfect. He knows that about you. He was the one that shared you could never disappoint God because God made you. Disappointment comes from surprise that you didn't think a person was capable. God knows what you're able to do, willing to do, will not do. He knows all of it. And when I tell you I was crying that Bible study night, crying. I mean, deep crying. Left Bible study that night, still getting ready to have my surgery, still trying to figure out what to do. Everybody was praying one way, but nobody asked me how I wanted, what was my goal? What did Camille want? I'm not going to talk about the other part of it, regarding how people put on pressure about you having children and all that. I'm not even going to go there. Anyways, my prayer that I had going into surgery on February 25th, 2017, was that the Lord would wake me up because I wanted to live again, and that I would have an ocean view room. Okay, so remember I said I dealt with guilt and condemnation. I felt like all the things I've done knowingly, the things that, sometimes you just misfire, sometimes you say the wrong thing. We can be so flippant with our mouth. Listen, I'm be honest, I suffer from that. Sometimes I think before I speak. A lot of times I think before I speak. And, dealing with all of that, I used to just carry so much guilt. I used to believe that I was, God's grace and his mercy and his goodness would be great for everybody. I just couldn't get any of it because I was so horrible. Because of what I've done. You name it. Guilt, condemnation, trick of the enemy. So, leading up to me going into surgery, I had finished my master's program over at University of Phoenix with like a 3 something. And that was a miracle in itself, 3.5. And I was like, God, you did that. I finished that on the 21st of February. The 25th, I went into surgery. And I was going to be off work for 6 weeks. And I remember coming out of surgery. My surgery took longer than the 2.5 hours that they had told my parents. I was in surgery for 5.5, almost 6. I woke up. It was all kind of stuff happening, but I remember the pain. If anyone's ever had a cesarean or a myomectomy, you know what I'm talking about. But it wasn't until I got into the room and I woke up from that medicated slumber and I saw what looked like to be the ugliest pigeon in the world. I was like, that's the weirdest looking pigeon I've ever seen. It was a seagull. I saw the seagull and I kind of leaned up a little bit and then I saw the mass of the sails of all the ships over there and boats rather in Newport Beach. And I just immediately started crying. I cried the whole time I was in the hospital because that was, for me, I prayed, okay, God, wake me up. And if you can bless me with the ocean view room, because the way my insurance is set up, they had already said, oh, we don't really give out those rooms, depending on your people. So I was like, if I'm going to be recovering in the hospital for almost a week, I want to at least look out the window and see the ocean and the water. The ocean is the water, but ocean and the boats, you know what I'm saying. But anyways, let me focus. And so I'm crying. Everybody who came to visit me, crying, crying, crying. I'm crying because that was the first time that I can tell you that I knew that God loved me. Fast forward 2013. So I will tell you, like, I gave my life to the Lord, like officially learned. Let me say this. I got, if I was to have died, my obituary said, oh, Camille came to Jesus at an early age, right? She baptized 3 or 4, 5, 6 times. I mean, it got to the point I was just going swimming, right? But if I would have died before 2013, I can confidently say it wouldn't have anything about Camille having a relationship with God. Camille went to church. Camille was a preacher's kid. But Camille didn't have a relationship at all. Not a working one, not an intimate one, not a devoted one. Yeah. So when he blessed me to wake up with the ocean view room, my feelings towards the Lord I began to like search and want to know about his love. So when you look at the Be Healed web show and you look at this series From Religion to Relationship, it's really the journey of my life. Like I had to learn from a place of relationship, not from a place of theory and knowledge. I had to learn from a relational. I had to experience. So I would say that I have literally been in an active, committed relationship with the Lord for 10 years. I don't know if people put that like, how you put that like, but yeah, 10 years ago, this coming February 25th, it'll be 10 years that I have been in an active relationship, the longest relationship I've ever had in my life, where I'm in an active love relationship with the God of the universe, and I know that he loves me. Nobody can make me doubt his love. Religiosity and things that people would say to me would make me feel like, oh yeah, God can never forgive. I remember some woman at this one church, she was like, God don't hear no sinner's prayer. What you talking? That he specialized in listening to sinner's prayer. What you talking? But when you don't know, right? And you hear something and you don't search it out, you'll start to believe it. And so you start to feel like there's really like limitations on God. How is God limited? He's literally all you can eat. You can't all you can eat at Golden Corral, or you can't the places that say all you can eat, they don't really mean it. They say you could be there for up to a certain amount of time and that's it. God is literally all you can eat. You morning, noon, and night. If you want to be in his presence, he's like, come on, I still got more. And guess what? You can get full one moment and still come back and get seconds, thirds, fourths, fifths, 16th, 20th, you name it, because he's the unlimited bread of heaven. And you can keep feeding and growing and learning in him. You can read the same scripture each year, each day, and get something new every day. He's great. All right, I gotta go. I gotta keep going and wrap this up. Okay, so February 25th, that was moment 1. Moment 2, all in 2013. Remember I told you I was going to be off work for 6 weeks. Now I'm gonna keep it a buck because I don't know who needs to hear this, but I'm gonna keep it a buck right now. I was in a situationship with a person who said I love you to me first. So I definitely thought, well, if he said he loved me first, then clearly, this must be real because, I didn't say it. He did, right? 2013. And so I was in a situationship with this person who I thought knew what love was all about. No, 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 no. So I was in this situationship and, your friends, your family, they love you and they'll endure your stupidity. They will. They'll endure it. They'll be like, okay, whenever. And I remember I was down for 6 weeks and the person I was in a situationship with found himself gallivanting with some other people while, I'm down. I'm like, bruh, like, what's really going on? Like, I thought, man, I'm telling you, when you don't love yourself, you will allow yourself to be in some stupid situations. Just so you know, when you don't know who God is, just know you about to be numero uno stupido in all your situations. Because why? You don't know who God is, so you don't know your value, you don't know your worth, and you'll start thinking what is glistening is gold, and it's nothing. All right, fast forward. My mother asked me, look at you, it's so interesting. I was so upset because I learned of this indiscretion, right? Of all the multitudes. And my mom said to me, what would it take for you to leave this person alone? And I remember telling her three things, right? Because I know God is concerned about us, God already knows. He knows us. He knows when we'll turn and be fully devoted in Him. So I told her those three things. That's going to happen a little bit later in 2013, but let me stay focused. So that was in February 2013. I said those three things to her. I told you I was off work for 6 weeks. Disability never paid me. My job never paid me. You know how the state can be backed up. You know how that can go. I'm in maybe week 4.5 of my recovery. I'm able to drive. I went down to Century City to support my uncle and his son in one of the events. And I was driving a Suzuki Verona at the time, but the transmission was bad. Okay. I always loved a valet, and in Century City, everything's a valet because it's the uppity area. So I'm leaving the Ritz-Carlton. I rush out first so I can get my car first. Why was I the last person to leave? The first person out I'm waving a Wayne Chaney, talking to different people. They all getting their BMWs, their Maseratis and stuff. They didn't have Teslas at the time, but they had all the expensive Porsches and stuff. And I would see the valet men running back and forth like, hey, I need help with this car. It was talking about my car. And I remember, like, I was so embarrassed. So when they finally got my car up, I just jumped in the car. And I was so embarrassed. I called my parents and I was just like, I need to go to CarMax tonight. So on the way back to my parents' house in 2013, because that's where I was residing, I'm driving back to my parents' house and I'm talking to my car. And I was like, you know what? You've been good. I'm going to clean you up real good. But I can't keep doing this. Like, we're going to have to break up. I clean out the car. I wash the car in my same outfit that I went to the Ritz-Carlton in. I'm in like a full dress. I'm washing the car because I was determined. I get up to CarMax because I'm looking for a Hyundai or a Kia because I knew that would be in my price range. Mind you, my pay stub showed $0 because I've been off work. I don't have any income. Okay. All I would have is a trade-in for my car. That's it. And I was, again, praying. And so this was April 20th, 2013. When I tell you nothing but the Lord, okay? We get to CarMax. I told my parents, hey, I'm just looking for a Kia or a Hyundai. I knew exactly on the lot where I was going to. But I'm walking out and I see 2 Honda Accord Cross Tours, silver in color, right in front of me. I've never been drawn to inanimate objects. I don't believe in like what? That doesn't mean anything. But I was drawn to this silver Honda Accord Cross Tour, drawn to it. And so drawn, like I couldn't even hear nobody else talking. I saw the other couple that was looking at the car and I go to it. I'm looking at it and it was just like I had this moment with this vehicle. Like I was just like, I feel like this is for me. Like, but in my mind, I'm like, how? This is more money than I can pay, right? The Kias and the Hyundais were going for like 17.5, 18.5. That I knew I could at least, figure it out. Like that's comfortable. This car was 27.9, right? And I just didn't see how it was going to happen. But something on the inside, and I was so quiet. My mom can attest to this. I was so quiet. My parents are talking to the guy. We do a test drive. I'm quiet. I ain't saying nothing. Who am I talking to? I'm talking to God. Now, mind you, me and him, in my opinion, like I'm still learning how to talk to you and actually tell you what I want, because I never thought I could tell you how I want, because I knew how bad I have been. You couldn't listen to me. Why would you want to give me anything? Because I've been the worst of the worst. But God was grooming me. God was growing me. And I remember I kept saying, God, if this is you, if this is you, God, if this is you, this is what you want from me, then you'll make it happen. We get in there, fast forward, my dad is talking to the money guy, and they do I have to tell you this part. They run an inspection on my car to evaluate it. Brother man came back with $500 valuation from my Suzuki Verona. I was like, I just knew then I'm not going back with a car. I was just like, I was being met with defeat. My dad jumps in. Okay, man, but put 1,000 on it. What would do if it even put 1,500 on? What would that look like? Oh yeah, we can get her finance and blah 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 blah. Now, mind you, ain't nobody signing Kermit and Sandy. They don't believe in co-signing nothing. Okay. So the 1,000, I was like, where he gonna get this 1,000 from? I'm like, oh, Dad's generous. He gonna give me $1,000. Okay, I'll take him wherever he wants to go. So my mom is sitting there, being the trusty mom that she is. She looks at my dad and she was like, "Where's that, honey? We selling our house. Like our stuff is tied up. Where's this $1,000 gonna come from? We don't have cat. Like we can't pull stuff out right now. We're selling one house. We're in a new house. Like, what are you doing?" I was met with like, oh, here we go. My dad tells me to call a particular lady, part of our church, a friend of our family at the time. And God knows me. Okay. If nobody else knows me, God knows me and God understands me. So me making that phone call was something I didn't want to do, but I'm trying to get a car. The woman was willing to bring the $1,000 up there. But in my heart of hearts, I don't want to owe nobody nothing. I don't want to be indebted to anybody. I don't care what the bill collector say. I don't want to be indebted to anybody. And so little did I know, my mom, during that time, she looks at the guy, the salesman, and was like, that's the best you can do, $500? That's the best you can do? You need to run that again. Okay. While I'm on the phone with her, the gentleman comes back with his paper in his hand, because he showed us on the screen 500. But the gentleman comes back with a paper in his hand, and he's like blown away. He was like, y'all saw what I saw earlier. It said 500. The paper showed 1,500 exactly. While I'm on the phone with the lady, I was like, hey, God done worked it out. I gotta go. Like, don't even worry about it. God done worked it out. That was miracle 2. I left there in a car that exceeded what I was even looking for. Okay. Ephesians 3:20 says, now unto him who is able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all you could ever ask or think. He is able to do exceeding and abundantly. So in 2013, February 2013, he blessed me. Not only did I heal and recover from this surgery with the Ocean View room in that April, without having any money down, without having any co-signers, without having to be indebted to anyone, I was able to leave CarMax with a 2010 30, I think it had 31,000 miles on that Honda Accord Cross Tour. And I still have that car today. This car is still, and I always tell people, God gave me that car. God gave me that car. And I'll tell you, when the Lord allowed for 2 of the things that happened in the situation, remember I said earlier, what my mom asked me, what would it take for me to let this person go? And I said, oh, these 3 things would have to happen. He allowed 2 of the 3 things to take place. And I can remember when that burden, that whatever you want to call it, I would like to call it a spirit, that's just me. But I remember that hold that I had in my heart, I had this hold, this person had this hold on me when they confessed that 2 of these things, they didn't know that was on my list. was taking place, all that I had for that person left. I mean, like Elvis left the building type thing, gone. Freedom. And that's when I went on the journey of finding out who Camille is. And how did Camille find out who she is? She got into the word. So when we talk about from religion to relationship, and we're talking about what is true discipleship, I learned to be a disciple of Jesus Christ. I was going to church and served in various churches, whether it was a Baptist church, a full gospel Baptist church, or a Kojic church, you name it, a non-denominational. I've always served somewhere. But I had never been discipled to Christ. I started growing spiritually from Reach Community Church to 3P's Christian Ministries. This has been the most spiritual growth I've ever had in my life. Reading the Word of God and learning, not just reciting and quoting, but knowing what it means, understanding the context. I was able to experience the love of God because I knew that God was loving on me. He was showing me, like, girl, just trust me. I've never failed you. I've always blessed you. I didn't even tell you about the time when I came back from recovery. And I remember going back into my senior trainer role at Verizon. I remember telling the Lord, I ain't supposed to be here. Like, you got more for me. And sure enough, I get into a training development role, working in the retail side of the house as a marketing consultant. It was like a little internship, a little rotational position. But while I'm there, my peers they all get notified of a layoff. We all get notified of a layoff. And the director, while she's telling my group about our layoff, she tells us, Camille, we open up the position that you're in and we hope you apply. Got 3 times minimum in 2013 alone, God showed his outstretched love for me. He provided for me. He helped me to know, like, I hear you. I'm close to you. I want you to know that you can depend on me. I want you to know that you can count on me, that you can trust me with your heart. You can bring your concerns to me and I hear you. That was in 2013 alone. So again, no perfection here. No perfection here. I'm an imperfect person who's being loved by a perfected God, a perfect and upright God. I'm totally imperfect, but he's daily perfecting me more and more to what he wants me to be. So I've been able to experience his love. I've been able to grow in his word, like actually, and get excited about reading the Bible. It ain't a chore. It ain't a checkbox. It's not just like, oh, let me just hit my daily, just so I can hit my daily. Okay, let me just make sure, I don't miss anything. No, it's genuine. It's 100% pure love. I can hear that sound. 100% pure love. Okay, from the back and around again. Okay. Anyways, pure love, man. God showed his love for me, and I'm so eternally grateful for it. So 2013 was the year for me that everything changed. Now, it was a process, okay? 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, all of those years came with so much. A lot of shedding, a lot of tears, a lot of growth. 2016, God blessed me with this house. All I can tell you is, for me, the reason why I felt impressed to do from religion to relationship, because I believe there's somebody out in this world, if there's not multiple somebodies, who are just like me. You've been going to church your whole life, or in and out of church, just to check the box on Sunday, because singing in the choir, doing different, because that's what you've been told to do. Or that's what you have grown accustomed to do out of religiosity. But you haven't made Jesus your choice. Just as much as you made your husband or your wife, your boyfriend, your boo, your babe, whatever, your choice, like out of all the people that was in your DM, you selected this person. You let them in. You let them learn about you. You let them go on vacation with you. You let them get close to you because you chose them, right? Out of everybody else, you said there's something about this girl, there's something about this boy that's drawing you, right? But and you've got this, you've grown in intimacy with this individual. And we do so much of that in relationships with others, but we don't do that same energy with God. He's always in the DM of our heart. Always. I love you. I'm here. You can make it. Don't quit. I mean, he's always talking. Always. He's always, Jesus said, I stand at the door and knock. But if you invite me in, I'm going to come in. I'll make room. Listen, if you let me in, I'll do what I need to do in your life. He's such a gentleman, right? But we'll deduce God to what we've seen mortal man do. Man, that's not right. God is infinitely, exponentially better than anybody in this world. No one could ever compare the fact that he loves you, even though he knows how you think. My mom and dad, they do well with me. Thank God for them. Right? I appreciate my mom and dad. But as much as they love me, and I know they do, they get fed up with me. They get tired of me. They get sick of me. Oh, I know they do. There's times when I know they ain't answering my call. They're not, I know. It happens. It happens. But who I'd never have to worry about that with is God. There's not one time that I pray and he'd be like, send her to voicemail. Nah. There's not one time that I can't go to him and say, God, I'm sorry. He'd be like, you sure? Because that's what you did last. No, he don't do that, y'all. He said, listen, I am faithful and just. If you confess, I'm faithful and just to forgive. And I won't even bring it back up again. Anyways, listen, y'all, I just believe there's people out here in this world who knows what Camille prior to 2013 was feeling and doing. And you might even be preaching. You might even be a pastor, a minister, an elder, a singer, songwriter, musician, whatever. You might really feel that way. But just know you don't have to stay like that. Just know the God that you keep telling everybody else about, he applies to you too. His grace and mercy applies to you too. Do we continue in sin that grace may abound? God forbid. No, when we know better, we do better. I learned about God's grace. I learned about his love for me. I learned that nothing can separate me from the love of God. Now, has my life been easy? No. Has it been perfect? Nope. Has it been memorable? Yeah. Has the good times outweighed the bad? Yeah. Have the down times been few? Mm-hmm. Do they seem to last a little longer than what I want? Yeah. But is he working in me something greater? Yes. Am I becoming who and what he has called me to be? Every day. So listen, we'll continue to do these series as God leads us. But I just want to let you all know this is from my heart to yours. Try Jesus. You can go to whatever church you want to. You can continue on in the practices, whatever. Hey, that's your business. But get a relationship with Jesus. And all you got to do is say, Lord, come into my heart. I want to know you for myself. I heard what Camilla said. I've heard what other, but I want to have a moment where I know that it's you, Lord. I want to know that it's you. I want to know you. I want to get to know you. You know me, but I want to get to know you. I want to fall in love with you. He'll do just that. So I love you guys. May God bless you. May God keep you. May his face continue to shine upon you and give you strength. Listen, make Jesus your choice, not because I said it. Definitely because Jesus said it. FYI, I'm just saying. He's very credible. But make Jesus your choice. This world is trying to convolute a lot of stuff, and it's always going to try to distract you and pull you away from everything that's not God, because that's what the world does. The world will make you feel like, you can't pray, you can't talk to God, or you can't pray out loud because you're gonna mess up, or you get out of here. God knows you. He just wants you to commune with him, talk with him, get in relationship with him. He's perfect, he's loving, he's faithful, he's kind. Get to know him for yourself. If you don't believe me, hey, get to know him for yourself. And when you do, come on back to Be Healed and share your testimony of what God has done for you in your life. Would love to hear from you. All right, you all be blessed on tonight. I'll talk to you soon. Join us in the upcoming next week. In the upcoming weeks, we got some amazing guests. Some young folks going to be on here this upcoming week. It is Black History Month. We're going to be celebrating like some success. I'm doing a live show. I'm actually going to do a live studio audience the end of this month. So tune in for that. More information to come on the 28th. So may God bless you. May he keep you. May his face continue to shine upon you, give you strength. If you have any questions, you want to get to know God, you want to talk, want to read the Bible together, want to learn, hey, talk to me. Hit me up. Here's my email. Thank you, Mama Two, for tuning in. You can email me directly at behealedwebshow@gmail.com. If you already know me, or if you follow me on Facebook, you can do just that. Ping me in my Facebook channel or on YouTube. Make sure to get back to you. All right. God bless. Love you. Keep praying for me because I'm praying for you. Take care.